There we go. Hey, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This is the very first Garden Party Collective online reading, a celebration of the press this first year, and a awesome contest and lots of wonderful writers. So brought together all the finalists, and we're going to have a nice night of reading. So let me just dive right on in. Our very first reader is Ashley Elizabeth. She's a Pushcart nominated writer and teacher from Baltimore. Her poetry has appeared in Swim, Sage Cigarettes, and Rigorous, amongst others. Her debut full-length collection, A Family Thing, is forthcoming from Redacted Books, ELJ. When Ashley isn't teaching or working as a chapbook editor with some dress publications, she habitually posts on Twitter and Instagram. Please join me in welcoming Ashley.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to read some poems from the collection that was a finalist, but I'm also going to read a poem from a collection that's coming out in October. Oh, it is October, later this month. And then a piece or two from my debut that's coming out next year. So we'll see how far I get. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my collection that was a finalist for Garden Party Collective was about where I'm from, Baltimore, and the love-hate relationship I have with it. So I'll just dive right on in. So this first poem is called Miss Baltimore. Baltimore has gone from the greatest city in America to the heroin capital. She is tired, slumps into class, makeup left over from many late nights ago. On her knees, tells her students they are going to watch a movie for the 13th time in a row. As she scratches her left arm and jerks her neck, her students are used to this, and they have stopped coming. She has that Lexington market into her bloodstream, along with wet lines, city lines. She wants it to snow, slowly, into her underweight, bony body. Baltimore is sick of hearing hun. She wants to go back to bed. She cannot sleep, mistaking fireworks for bullets, always looking for her next hit. She wants to be safe, doing what she knows, rocking back and forth, lying to share needles laced with disease, coke, LSD in alleyways, basements, backyards, playgrounds. Sunken-eyed, sweaty Baltimore needs her fix. So a lot of these poems about Baltimore came from a mini thesis I did when I was an undergrad. And that project kind of propelled me into this, especially because I did not always claim to be from Baltimore. So I wrote this poem that's called But I Am From This. When I am not in Baltimore, I miss it. I cannot say half and half in any other part of the country and still get what I want. Something crisp and sticky and sweet and refreshing, or a chicken box doctored up real good, or a real steamed blue crabs, or Old Bay. But I never said I was from Baltimore until recently. I was always from just nearby, just over the city lines. The violence that lingers with the name consumes too much energy, allows people who have only seen The Wire to judge me based on what they think some not so spot on TV show shows. Something that is very crucial to living in Baltimore, being like a true Baltimorean, is number one, enjoying crabs, and number two, knowing how to eat them correctly. So this poem, I'll read two poems about crabs and then I'll switch gears a little bit. So, realization at a crab feast. You're not from Baltimore if you can't clean a crab correctly. And by clean, I mean devour. Can't have nobody mama or grandmama or auntie looking at you crazy because you want to be all cute and act like you ain't hungry. Don't let it go to waste now. Almost nothing worse than a half-big shell, but the emptiness of feeling sorry for yourself the way I do. Hollow. I care too much. Pile my plate full of things you can't get otherwise. Tell myself to swallow, whether I am full or not, and hope for something better. The next poem I'm going to read is like my favorite thing about Baltimore. And then, like I said, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So this poem is called Chicken Box with Salt, Pepper, Hot Sauce, a Word. So chicken box with salt, pepper, hot sauce, a word, followed by please and ketchup on the fries. And I get my family back in the moment I wade through Lexington Market, looking at, well, everything, but only buying from Parks and Old Faithful, a tradition I hope to keep if I have children. But it is only a moment. I've moved out, mom has moved on, dad is alone, and grandmother doesn't need Faley's fish anymore because she's no longer on the way home. And the market has been rebuilt and gentrified, but I get to bite into crisp skin, tear things apart with bare hands, and moan, indulge in the salty, sticky sweet, devour something, and mean it. So I can't talk about home without also talking about family. So my debut full length that comes out next August is about family. So I'm going to read probably 2 poems from here. Chicken Box is also in that collection. So it's exciting. I'm going to read one from here and then one from my teaching chapter and then one from my chapter that's coming out. So this poem is called Brain Teacher. My father buys me Donald Duck orange juice from Mars the days I am homesick from school, and I almost take it for granted. He is a simple man who wants to do right by his family and in the eyes of some God. He has been this way, steadfast and stubborn, as long as I remember. For what I remember, some things do not change. But what has is the fact that I'm collecting pieces of my past like Pokemon cards, and I'm still missing more than I think. There is no reason to me remembering. Something will just happen. Something will turn a key and along will press something else. I will taste something, or hear something, or smell something, or see something, or touch something, and I am 6, mixing crystal hot sauce and my mac and cheese from the roost. And I am 9 with a twisty cone in my hand. And I am 7, sweet tart wrappers littering my bedroom floor and bedside table. And I am 12 on Broadway for the first time, lights turning my head every which way as we walk. And I am 16, mashing potatoes with my grandmother with a fork. And I am 10 and quitting ballet. And I'm 15 and getting yelled at by my tennis coach over my weight for the 18th time, even though I've proven I can run and run and run some more. Have told him suicides don't bother me none. And I'm 14, emptying my mother's drainage. And I'm 13, trying to kill myself for not the first time. And I'm 11, dancing to my Hello Kitty boombox. And I'm 9, trying to play basketball with my cousins. And I'm 5, sitting on the floor playing Mario Kart and trying to be better than him, beat him at something I can actually win. And I'm 7 again at a crab feast / barbecue / family reunion in a backyard getting torn up by mosquitoes, but every minute is so worth it. And I'm 15 smoking a black and mild on the way to the movie theater because I think it looks cool. And even cooler, I think it'll help me get my girlfriend back because she's a smoker and I want nothing more than to taste her all day. And I'm 8 on stage in a tutu with graceful arms and legs and neck because, as a ballerina, you must be fluid, moving at once and make it look easy. And I'm sick of trying to build and rebuild a life that shouldn't have been shattered by nasty hands in the first place. So, as was mentioned, I am an educator. I work in the city. And I've been working on a collection about my kids as well. So I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff right now. But this collection has been kind of tugging at me for the past couple years. So I'm going to read one poem from that. This poem is called Control. My students dissected sheep hearts in science class, and I feel for the lamb plucked from the world early. Or maybe it was a sacrificial thing. After all they hear is no. When this was a guided activity until the end, and they got to prod around, mash and knead things to their liking, reminding me of them begging to control their environment, to keep their phones in their pockets, to leave the classroom and work in the tower, to walk around the building without being in line, for the locks to come off the bathroom doors. For the first real time, they have already lost so much. 2 friends and a handful of teachers later, we are all tongue-tied and tired. And then the last poem I'm going to read is a poem that's from my collection that's coming out in a few weeks, which I still can't believe it's so soon. I can't believe it's October already. But this poem is called Refusal to Pledge. So, I refuse to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the corruption to which it bows, one divided nation under a limited idea of God, divisible by race, gender, orientation, and sex, with liberty and justice to well-bred, rich white men. Thank you. And again, thank you, Chris, for inviting me. This was so fun.
Thank you. You were wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley. Starting us off strong. Okay. Here we go. Our next reader is Christa Vander Wyst. Christa graduated from Knox College in 2021 with a BA in creative writing. Through her poetry and essays, she commonly reflects on themes of childhood, mental health, self-discovery, and growth. When she's not arguing for the importance of the Oxford comma, she enjoys reading, thrifting, and drinking mediocre decaf coffee. Please join me in welcoming Christa.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. The first poem that I'll be reading tells the story of my journey as a writer and how I came to find my voice. It's also very fittingly the first poem in the chapbook. This poem is called Learning to Speak. For years I listened to word after word, how a spondee roared, but a dactyl backed down from the fight. I studied the ways in which words were hacked apart, rearranged and sewn back together. I learned how to minimize the seams, how to punctuate suddenly and completely, how to slide down a comma and climb back up. When I held a pencil for the first time, it felt as soothing as a pacifier, though the instrument didn't muzzle my voice, but set it free. All right, this next poem is about friendship at its purest form and also something else, but I'm not going to spoil that. This is Christina. The summer before kindergarten, I spent every afternoon at the house across the street, sucking on crayon popsicles. She went by Stina, and I liked that. If we pieced our names together, we'd get something like Christina. Her basement housed the Barbies we played with, dressed up, sent on quests to the shower where Gartha held them hostage. We ended the day with rainbow mouths, linked arms, and a promise to do the same. Tomorrow came with nothing more than a parade of moving trucks and the silhouettes of a girl and her Barbie doll. I guess while we're on the topic of childhood still, here's a poem about growth and also why you shouldn't give me matches. This is The Matchstick. The first time I lit a match was to warm the sticks of elongated wax that rested ever so atop mounds of vanilla icing. But when I saw the flame's movement, the threat of it winding up and licking my fingertips, I hurled the flare across the room and watched the air devour. The char landed on a bright white towel, marking like pen to paper. 3 washes and 2 days later, I learned the word permanent. All right, this next poem that I'll be reading has a long story behind it, which I'll try to simplify. In November of 2022, I lost one of my college professors unexpectedly. someone who I considered a mentor and even a friend, someone who was my first real poetry teacher. When Monica passed, her close friend Beth asked her former students to write poems for Monica, but not about her, because Monica didn't like things being written about her. So I decided to write a nature poem for Monica, because I'm not a nature person, but Monica was, and I wanted to write as though she was there alongside me. But there is another layer to the poem as well. Shortly after Monica's passing, a 5-year-old girl named Delaney, who lived in my neighborhood, got diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She passed away a few months after I wrote this poem. So this is a poem about all of those stories, how to remember, how to mourn, and how to try to move forward. And I'm sorry, Monica, but this poem is about you just a little bit. This is To Look from My Window. To look from my window is to write a poem about the beehive that adorns my maple tree. Even in winter, I admire the bees' commitment, but I wonder if they know their hives coated in white, exterior crumbling like the leaf crunched under the boot of the 5-year-old girl who runs through the cul-de-sac, unaware that she is the hive. I mean literal. I mean cancer. I mean there is a storm coming. And it's only a matter of time and place and waiting for the husk on the bough to lose its footing. And when it happens, because we never call it what it really is, the tree will still be standing. All right, I wrote this next poem because I feel like so much of what poets write, myself included, are sad poems. And I think that the world deserves to laugh just a little bit more. So this poem is about having a friendship where one party is sexual and one party is asexual, and how those two things intermix to form delightful interactions. This poem is called In the Aisle at Walmart, Sam Ponders. In the aisle at Walmart, Sam ponders the bottles of lube. I admire the toy Story 4 Lego set. She settles for Queen V because she'd rather have that than Monistat. But that's another story I won't be telling today in this Walmart. One girl throws a Frozen 2 costume at another. You know you want it. No, I don't need any condoms. Thank you very much for the Nerf gun and the bullets. All right, and this last poem I'm going to close with is also dedicated to Monica. I wrote this poem back in 2020 to pay homage to a studio space that Monica owned. The studio space was about a 5-minute walk from my college campus in Illinois. And at the space, which was actually named The Space, there were student poetry readings and writing events all the time. Unfortunately, when COVID came, Monica had to sell the space, but this poem was written to remember all of my memories there. And now, having lost Monica, I feel like this poem also pays homage to her too. This poem is called Altered Bonds and Then the After. A curl springs forth and then another, a bit of heat and a spritz to stay. No shampoo for at least 48 hours. Primping allowed. I give her $20 extra and out the door. And I think I finally understand the phrase spring in your step, because I'm skipping across the pavement and I've looked in about 4 store windows to see myself, and goddamn do I look good, and goddamn do I feel good, and goddamn there's not a cloud in sight. When an old man stops for me at the crosswalk and gives a wave, I imagine 5 curls extending, linking together, waving back. And then I see M Studio, but now it's a pottery shop. And the books are gone, and her coffee mugs aren't hanging there. And the place where I stood and spoke and found myself is hiding under a table. I walk to the stairs, let my foot hover over the first step before drawing it back, turning away. And then I hear a giggle coming from within the shop. I glance back to see a woman M's age and a young girl carrying a box. They set it on the table together, and once it's open, the little girl starts popping at bubble wrap. The sight makes me smile and laugh and breathe and wrap my fingers around a curl, making it go boing and boing again. I leave the two of them to unpack the box, and I make a promise to myself to find a new spot. Until that spot's covered by a table, and that table's covered with. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Christa. That was wonderful. Okay. Our next reader is Leah Mueller. Leah's work appears in Rattle, Non-Binary Review, Brilliant Flash Fiction, Citron Review, The Spectacle, New Flash Fiction Review, Atticus Review, Your Impossible Voice, and more. She is a 2022 nominee for both Pushcart and Best of the Net. Leah's flash piece, Land of Eternal Thirst, appears in the 2022 edition of Best Small Fictions. Please join me in welcoming Leah.
Hi, I'm trusting everybody can hear me okay. I have unmuted myself,
You're great.
and I'm always louder than I think I am or softer than I think I am. So I'm assuming I can just go right on ahead, barreling through. I'm going to read a couple of poems from the new chapbook, Failure of Photography, which I guess probably most of you are familiar with. The first one is the one that was actually nominated for a Pushcart. Obviously not a winner, but it was still a wonderful thing to be nominated. And I run this poetry group on Facebook and do the 30-day in April poetry thing. And one of the things that, one of the assignments that I put forth to the group was to go outside, look for something, pick it up off the ground, and write about it. And I got more than I bargained for. This is called A Stranger's Bones. Under the overpass, a Ziploc bag beckoned from cracked earth. Discarded receptacle, dusty and still in the stagnant air. When I pushed it with my shoe, powder oozed from the top. The zipped barrier had come loose. Grainy, light gray substance, ground into fine powder. At first, I thought cocaine, then bulk flour. But a woman's name and date had been scrawled into the plastic with a black magic marker. Someone had thrown cremated remains from the overpass and driven away, free from the burden of death. 13 years passed until they saw fit to discard the package. Now it lay in purgatorial mud, twitching and oozing dust. I picked up the bag, poured its contents into the San Pedro River, watched cremains drift away in the sluggish current. I've scattered the remnants of my brothers, my sister, my mother, my first and second husbands, but I've never released a stranger's ashes. I held in my cupped hands a substance that was once a person's body. A woman who ate, slept, made love, perhaps gave birth to a child who later threw her ashes from a car right before Mother's Day. What impulse prompted such an act? I'll never know. Still, I am glad I set the bones free to drift downstream in search of a much better incarnation. All right. So the next is one that I wrote right before moving to Bisbee. I moved out here with my husband while he was still very ill with cancer. And, we knew right away because it was caught very late that it was terminal. And I thought of my mother and the fact that she lived in Bisbee before me under somewhat similar, but then on the other hand, pretty radically different circumstances. This is called 110 Degrees and No Relief in Sight. My mother was a widow in the desert. I will be next, but I don't know when. I fool myself when I look inside the mirror, note my cheek bloom and determined clench. Though I outlast everyone, one day I will lie down in the same gully, surrender to the third shift gatekeepers. All of us crouch together in scrub brush, waiting for my number to appear. The forest no longer wants me, spits its poison into my lungs, comes with a price tag I can't afford. My ancestors wore dark boots with laces, and that was enough. Predators dispatched with clubs and guns. Acres of trees sacrificed for shelter. I am too bloated to fight, too fond of comfort. You were too, until the invaders crept inside your body as you slept. The lesson is, you can never sleep. Your eyes must always be open to spot all the mistakes others will make at your expense. My desert homework: trust no one. My mother taught me early. Okay, let's have a fun one. Well, it's kind of fun because it's about Jeff Bezos, and what could be more fun than Jeff Bezos? This was the poem that I wrote that got into Rattle. So it was very exciting. I wrote it in June of 2021. So I was going through a lot during that time, and it was pretty miserable. It was shortly after my husband died, and I kind of felt like shit. And I just thought, well, I read about Jeff Bezos wanting to fly into space. I don't know, it just cheered me up. It just made me think of old Lost in Space commercials, which, if you're not a boomer, which I don't think anyone else is, then you probably don't know what I mean, but it was a pretty damn funny cartoon nonetheless, or not a cartoon, but a show. So this is called Lost in Space. In space, no one can hear you ask, do you have a Prime account at Whole Foods? Nor can they offer free shipping with a 30-day trial membership. The Washington Post, with its endless chatter of neoliberal propaganda, fades into distant memory. Just you, with your fishbowl helmet, framing your baldness like a translucent crown. Fly into the outer reaches of the galaxy, colonize Mars into an enormous warehouse. No one will clock in late for their graveyard shift. You won't need to count the days before your dividends arrive. That final billion-dollar deposit before you explode into a magnificent supernova. Molecules scattering their alms to a plundered and impoverished cosmos. Somewhere, a woman orders underwear from a small online company. Somewhere, a programmer finds discount software at the last Radio Shack. But you are oblivious space dust, particles floating like dollar bills through the galaxies, one for each remaining star. Okay, well, Christopher mentioned new poems and a possible mixture of chapbook poems and new poems. So I've got a new poem, and this one I'm very excited about because I entered a contest, a Table Feast magazine that's specifically for people 50 years old and older, with the grand prize being $50 plus $1 for each year of your life. And I'm like, way to pay $1 for each year of my life. That's great. And I found out that it made it into the final round of judging. So there's a possibility that this could net me $64.50. So I'm very excited. And it's a sad poem too. It's called New Orleans, 1978. A single fly-specked light bulb signaled my approach to home when I returned from a fancy outing in the French Quarter. My date dropped me off, gave me $20, and didn't even attempt a pass. You shouldn't have to live like this, he said before he drove away. Miles from my doorstep, the bayou pulsated like a lost heart. Wealthy people devoured Cajun food, washed it down with $50 bourbon, and gazed at the brackish Mississippi as it meandered its way towards the Gulf. Early that night, too warm for a jacket, I shivered in the darkness of Pat O'Brien's, surrounded by packs of callow preppies and buckets of cheap beer. Clutching my overpriced hurricane, I tried my hardest to belong. The carport overflowed with sports cars and Cadillacs, driven by first-year Tulane students. Old Southern money oozed from each pore, stank up the room like cologne. If I closed my eyes and I wished hard enough, perhaps I could take flight, soar through the magnolia trees like a peacock. But home offered no succor, just a windowless room and a single mattress with the promise of one more night's rest. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you so much, Leah. That was wonderful. Thank you. All right. Our next poet is Andrew Sargus Klein. Andrew is a queer poet, essayist, graphic designer, printmaker, and critic living in Baltimore with his partner and their 2 cats. His work has appeared in the Kenyon Review, Hyperallergic, Pithead Chapel, The Offing, and elsewhere. He makes eBooks at Mason Jar Press and is a former editor at Pidgeonholes, Territory, and Platypus Press. He holds an MFA in creative writing and publishing arts from the University of Baltimore, and he is the print and design manager for the Enoch Pratt Free Library. Please join me in welcoming Andrew.
Hey everyone, Chris, can you hear me all right?
You're great. You're great.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here with such wonderful poets. Ashley, thanks for the good Baltimore poetry. It's been a couple of weeks, a month, a year. It's been a lot in Baltimore recently, particularly. Anyway, So I'm gonna read some poems from my manuscript, Your Heart is a Season, which was a finalist for the inaugural chapbook contest, and it means the world to me that it was read with such care and attention. So yeah, I'm gonna start off with a slightly longer one that's also like a very kind of segmented poem, but I feel like we'll get into it. A Possible Anatomy. Tonight will be the darkest night in 500 years. I take that headline, rub it to ash in my fingers, and stir the words into a cup of water. When I take a drink, the headline fills my stomach until I rise a few inches off the ground. Tonight will be the longest night in the history of the earth, and I'm as close to a fixture as I'll ever be. Resolved in each hand, 7 oranges and the moon. Since 2010, a woman from Galicia, Spain has claimed to own the sun. She went to a local notary office and carved the sun up little by little to sell on the internet. The document declared her to be the, quote, owner of the sun, a star of spectral type G2, located in the center of the solar system, located at an average distance from Earth of about 149 million kilometers. Archaeologists discovered a megalithic monument underneath Stonehenge with the help of ground-penetrating radar. Note that the world is getting bigger still and more inside itself. A Possible Anatomy, Stillness, an asymptote for the living body, a room of light, an allowance of movement. I walk out my front door, and I cross the street, and I walk to the bus stop. A Possible Anatomy, my feet spiral away from my body with each step, the supinated foot meeting the ground in a ritual act of structural drift, a pantomime of tendons that warps my pelvic bowl, leaves me unsecured in the middle. Water is still the softest drink, the heaviest body. The arc of the day touches my chin and dandruff releases from my face to repopulate the earth as an army of small Andrews armed with pine needles. In that dream, my whole body eventually turns into a city and my consciousness is suspended like a drought. My feet are so small when I look down at them. They splay as clock hands on a compass dish on account of my hips, a splitting labrum. I wish they were beautifully felt natural. And this angle of my queerness is draped cotton and buttons and rolling ankles, a possible anatomy, where my gait rends shoes into confettis of leather and arches. Lynn tells me which way my toes point tonight, and I'm grateful. Fluidity, the first instruction, a constellation of blood and intention, sublimated storylines that sparkle like minerals in my browser purchase history index, another possible anatomy. There is a frame for anything. The ground is another layer of the sky, so much differentiated blood, the heart and ocean pooling and draining as such. Note the floating mosaic or membrane, a group of self that coexist in oracular cinema. Skin is always relative. Skin is an imitation of pattern. I can't find a shirt that drapes, they all hang or they just cling. Pattern and textile are a vision. They're the first thing in the world I touch at any given moment, and their variations hover as lodestones. High quality denim, 40R, herringbone heels, a Henley with a hood, lace within lace around my hips, lapel widths and geomorphic neckties. The variations taper, and I sit on the side of the bus where the sun combines with the engine heat to create an untenable calm. There is light or there isn't that much light. The morning is a sling for my limp mind after I dream myself into the NBA and build a respectable mid-range jump shot. My home court's parquet floor, rich herringbone that transfers light like a conveyor belt to pool around my feet at the free throw line. I am the only person in the world, and I got this. The ocean is a dream of salted champagne and weightless love. I'm at the free throw line in leather high heels like I'm at the free throw line as a certain slant. The sense of smell is the strongest and least understood. The dome of overlapping static warming into rooted suede. Tonight will be the longest hot dog. Lynn's hands are under my shirt and braiding my chest with lavender. This is how my ribs will remember the darkest night, and when I wake up, the curtains are on fire, the 7-Eleven across the alley will have turned into the world's smallest inland sea, and when I open my mouth, a lavender ghost escapes. Tonight, the moon will be the closest to Earth it's ever been, and I don't want you to go. In 1,000 years, drag my coffin to the curb's rain-worn runoff and float me across the Chesapeake. Shout to the shore that the bonfire is touching everyone's face, that the sky is an unaccountable minefield of exploding gas. Look out, radio tide. The canal is an odor of death. Whew. Thank you for sitting with me for that longer one. I appreciate it. I have a few short ones to round this out. Order. The order of things is important. When I pass you in the grocery store, I'll hand you an orange and say, "Hello." Here's a simpler version of my heart. At the top of the waterfall, past the last visitor, I'll show you where the earth first met the moon and told them twice, "Hello." You're a kinder version of my heart. The order of things is important. Trust is the present, i.e. the future. The moon refilled with light, the produce aisle filled with light, the falling water still falling with or without light. This one is called The Headlight, and I'm going to cop to a mortifying realization that in this manuscript that I submitted, that this poem actually appears twice with two different titles. It's like an older poem. It's had a few variations. I just feel like maybe my fellow poets in the crowd might like understand kind of this, like, oh my, I just realized it like an hour ago. This poem is twice. Anyway, this and if anyone here is familiar with Breezewood, Pennsylvania, thanks, Victoria. If anyone knows Breezewood, this poem comes from a other manuscript all about Breezewood. The Headlight. Early January escapes the solstice. Bruised light hangs on a little longer before the garment of night. The headlight dreams herself as the moon, the flush heart of the inverted sea, where she folds herself into a sliver of a sequin. Quote, "What is gone for me is always returning. Water breathes with me in violet and maternal." End quote. This is where the dream ends. Stillness is a mirage on the human scale. Time is violence, the face of the world relearning itself. On the side of a highway, a car sits forgotten and dark. Colonies of fireflies repopulate its empty headlight, waiting for high summer and its blink of midnight that will find that forgotten car with the slow, glowing eye, pulling it from the shoulder up along a certain slant of moonlight into the night, where the headlight can be her own myth, the unblinking ghost along the spine of the sky. Okay, those are all prose poems, but I'm going to end with a free verse poem. Not that you can actually really necessarily know, but whatever I'm telling you, that's how I'm doing it. All right, the sun is the fig, the moon is the mouth. This summer's excuse me, sorry, I'm on my phone right now, and my group chat with all of my friends started exploding with like TV recommendations, and I like kind of, anyway, it's like seeing all these TV shows flickering and the names of shows flickering in the corner. Sorry. The sun is the fig, the moon is the mouth. This summer's Slurpee flavor is so red it should be its own planet. Like summer can be 360 degrees. Like the front porch is a raft, the traffic 1,000 leagues deep and somehow silent for a change. That's the shape of another storm, the kind that'll end in bruised peach milk. You know the color, the sun's apology. Under here, I'm quiet. I'm either waiting for the right sound or my words are lost. Each breath is a different color. Each heart is a season. Each fig holds the remains of a mother wasp inside its flesh of flowers. Did you know the sea is like wrapping paper? That this beach is a gift peeking out to build a memory of our feet? The bottom of the ocean, just faint footsteps, two-stepping their way in the dark. There's an orange on the windowsill if you look up, and there's a deeper neighborhood out there where the blue gets so dark you don't know where it went, and you can't know if blue will ever be the same anywhere else. You think it's okay, this blue right here, the blue of this sky, or the farther away part of the sea. You think, I can build a home for our feet right here in the sand and figure out the rest when the tide takes us wherever the tide goes at night. There's at least a dozen something afternoons worth of this blue, balanced and bright-eyed around a table with a fig, a bit of bread, and something else that doesn't have a word this early in the morning, nor this late in summer. The coffee has turned into a cup of hot rose water, and I have your hand with me at the kitchen table. It's either under the table or on top, and my heart is heavy with helium, as a star in a stone. Did you say something? The sea said it first, I think, when it pointed up and said, the moon pulls at The moon pulls at me every day, and every day the moon lets me go. That's what I meant, you said. Then later you gathered the blanket. Then later you gathered the blanket around our feet in the center of the porch, and we waited for the movie to remake itself in the night sky. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Andrew. That was wonderful. I love everyone pointing out all the orange imagery you have in your poems, the oranges.
Love oranges.
Okay. Our next reader is Sneha Subramanian Kanta. She's the author of the chapbooks Ghost Tracks, Ancestral Wing, and Every Elegy is a Love Poem, which is forthcoming from Variant Lit. Most recently, her poem Unelegy, or How Water Unmakes a Country, won the inaugural Canadian Authors Association Toronto Poetry Prize. She is the founding editor of Parentheses Journal. Please join me in welcoming Sneha.
Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so I am going to begin with my poem titled Tornado. All of these are from my chapbook, which was a finalist. And all of these poems are dedicated for Herschel. Okay, Tornado. What is love, if not the landscape that touches us? Summer, and suddenly an onset of rain. Impervious water, dotted over window panes, a silhouette of our reflection over the tempered glass. All sacrifice is water. Our bodies travel through the endpoint of India, enter another country, pass the atrocity of night, darkening the gulf of some place with shimmering lights. All maps blur into land and water against familiar time. Tenderness is doing something with your hands for another. The tornado has invented another city of slow-moving cars. Bless the static syntax of monolithic rotation. The sky and earth touch that which was fast-paced, creating a moment of stillness. 4 areas of moss green in a city of high-rises. You wish for lightning, I wish for cypresses. This meager noonlight is another inheritance. Okay, and I'm going to read another longer poem. I'm going to kind of put the URL in here so you can see the square brackets that I have used. Okay. It's called I Rejoice in Being, Our Glass of Physics, / Our Glass of Physics, after Sappho. The distilled evening does not imagine time as something pervious. Tomorrow, we will sing to each other about how the earth rotates and the positionality of the equator changes warmth. Hold my hands until the placenta of waves unmoors the moon. Then we will roam unfamiliar places, still, like roots scattered into soil, intermingled, such as the verse read hymn-like. In the old city, relics adapt to the new melodic of those who move the streets. We will rewrite the same script in another form. Language is fluid, moves across the bones of people when we stand beside a sea. Tidal waves imitate memory, how many oceans fold into water, how the sleet of ice slowly thaws. Another winter passes. The scent of your palm on the letter, how warm the breeze across the haze. Current. Yesterday, I pressed against a field of flowers. due to gravity, a sudden onslaught of rain. The train tracks wet, puddle formations in early winter or thicket of fog. I wipe my water-stained hands on the kitchen towel. It'll remain inside the nettle of fabric like a memory. Okay, I'm going to read a very small poem now, titled Broken Sonnet, Creation Ceremonial. After Sappho again. After the first light, indivisible day quilts into more light, sheath of fog, geological scale of an almost translucent. Glass reflects the expanse of our body. Our bodies fragment into fruit, like the onset of roiling monsoons. Regions wither into relic demarcations. Melodic body turns, ascendance. Residual is the wave of autumnal leaves. Prehistory, our palms hold history as an intersection, frond of singing in the precipice. Okay, and there's one last poem, and there's a little bit of science and physics involved here, which took a lot of research on my part as well. So, okay, a love poem, also a physics poem. There is no exact phenomena. Inside the bookstore, we move past tangible metals. Materiality one acquaints with our reflections in motion. Time is pulled away as shadows begin to decline. You gravitate toward the science section. I try finding poetry in nooks. Your hands reach toward a book by Stephen Hawking. You tell me how physics has somehow not been the same for you after his passing. You read a passage aloud about all resonances between the psychological and thermodynamic arrow of time. Entropy also means the disorder of a system, which can only increase. You tell me how it is rare for a physicist to be an expert on time. I say that it is fundamental to understand time and space, to be an active participant of history or the future. You speak of how time is an emergent property woven into the fabric of reality. I bring emphasis to tenses. I ask you about the final book where Hawking reflects that time travel cannot be ruled out, how he believed research grant applicants for the study would be dismissed. We recollect a time when we were in different countries. I showed you a video of faint sunsets dawning from Ochil Hills and my momentum when traveling upward against gravity. We remember how you carried food for birds onto our terrace in India when I was away, and the finite time it took those signals of messages to reach us. We spent another evening, this time in one country, and discuss how moving clocks tick slower than stationary clocks, how gravity, time, and distance intermingle like love in constancy and surges of continuum. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Chris, thanks so much for kind of just organizing all of this. Congratulations to all the chapbook winners. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Our next poet is Alex Vigu. Alex is a queer writer from Vancouver. He has been recently published in Moss, Foglifter, and Rust Plus Moth. His chapbook, The Myth of Man, was published by Floating Bridge Press, and his microchap, Lay Waste, was published by Ghost City Press. Alex is the founding editor of Day Job Journal. Please join me in welcoming Alex.
Hi, everyone. So I struggled a bit to decide what to read today. So I'm going to start with a couple new ones, and then I'll get into some of my poems from the chapbook submission. So these are from a project I'm working on about the pH scale, which is about acidity and, you know, the opposite of acidity. And fun fact for anyone who doesn't know, pH stands for potential of hydrogen. Just, yeah. So here is a poem titled 8.1, which is the acidity of the ocean. White coral, bleached bare and stunning. Does the ocean dream of its teeth falling out? My mouth fills with liquid, fizzy and lovely, tinting the pH strip orange, dreaming of blue. Ocean's mouth filling with carbon, fillings that pulp the flesh and boil gyres. I love my drinkable jewels, bottled stars infuriated, annihilate in more. And this other one is another poem that's born from fun facts about acidity. This is Coke and Concrete. Bury me in cheap stone. Fix my spine to the earth. You'll have to push me down. Did you know you float in concrete? I'd like to be perpetual, but only without pain. Gessoed into sculpture, painted up pretty. Let me drink it. Calcium carbonate. Plastered, numb, basic. But if I should change my mind, keep a bottle of Coke on hand. Did you know Coke can slow the hardening of cement? Concrete trucks keep it on hand in case of delay. I'd love time to decide. Fill me up with either. Flesh burns at both ends of the pH scale. So those are my newer ones. The rest I'm going to be reading are from my collection that I submitted. This collection's titled, wow, it just flew out of my head. It is titled, well, it's gonna have to be gone later. But basically it's a collection of poems to do with the death of my uncle before I was born. He drowned. And I had to do a lot of research to figure out what exactly happened. Research that ended up, you know, going to the place where he drowned and stuff like that. But it also has a lot to do with famous drownings or art history that has to deal with drowning, and also a lot of queer history that has to do with jumping, which my uncle jumped off of a bridge on a dare and drowned. So this first poem is called The Boys of Boise, 1955, and this is based on historical events. It's the sound of wind kissing juniper trees in the park. It's a lighthouse cop hunting to catch carnality and bind it in metal. I am conceived in these circumstances. A fledgling dribble or spit pine seed, earth drinker, semen missed by a stranger to be consumed by the shared roots and mycelium of drag mother nature. Pheromones of fear cruising in Idaho, gnawing at branches, gnawing at the rule of an unjust law. The men have swallowed their own arms, and I am born of this filleting. A child of infamous crimes against nature. 6 years probation, 10 years in prison, 5 years in prison, 7 years in prison, loses appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court, 5 years in prison, 15 years in prison, 5 years in prison, loses appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court. This next poem is another history poem. This is titled Snake Pit Police Raid, 1970. Diego Vanales jumped from the second floor of the Charles Street Police Station, lips of the night evaporating off him in silk swaths, terror of being deported, the crime of being out. Diego Vanales jumped and landed on a ferry's one weakness, wrought iron, impaled and cut down. Diego Vanales jumped and survived. Saint Sebastian of the Snake Pit, torn wings lifted the movement. They said, any way you look at it, that boy was pushed. We are all being pushed. Diego Vanales jumped and was deported once he recovered. Oh, fondly foolish boy, seeking in vain to clasp a fleeting image. This next one is one of the many ekphrastic poems in the collection. I was really inspired by paintings of men at watering holes, and it's a huge tradition of queer art and art history in general. It's a great way to practice painting figures, but I found it sort of a little twisted in the context of what I was thinking about. So this is Gilded Frame, After the Swimming Hole by Thomas Akins. Another landscape of nude men, another triumph of art, and another conqueror of masculinity. Meniscus of lacquer prevents these boys from diving into the cool mirror. These bodies frozen in time, perfect for eternity, ageless, will never sink, never lose their lives to a virus. They meet the water as a lover, kiss their reflections, kiss each other, crowns kissing stone. In a masterpiece, no one drowns, or they drown in perpetuity. Oh, river, let these boys stay gay forever. Let these creatures ignore the world outside their gilded frame just a while longer. So I did remember the name of the collection. It's Aria for the Bathers. And I actually have presented it as a play, which was really fun and interesting to work out. They're poems still, but they can be performed, which is really exciting for me. My final poem here, it was sort of the culmination of all of these inspirations. And it's the final poem in the collection. It's titled Sick, after Fall Out Boy, Derek Jarman, C.P. Cavafy, and Eve Klein. Will I need my eyes where I'm going? Surely I can adorn myself with this quilt before the moths of Ithaca beat me to it. One more night in Cavafy's poem, the promise of destiny, fate, fated, fatal, facial, blind fate. I tire of this jolly, holy, hoary voyage. I've learned and I long for paradise. Haven't I earned it? This martyrdom is prolific. We can't all be saints, boys. Intentional audio artifacts juxtaposed with bells and chanting, screaming, crimes so bright blue it hurts to watch, a matte glow, humming stare of the CRT television. Sick. He tastes like you, God. He tastes like you. He tastes like bright button blue. Distorted descendant of Alexander, I'm gonna make you bend and break to see if our colors match. Denim frame for a canvas ass, chiming birds, copy machine, guitar chord, genuflection sonnet. The sonnet is blue. I can see the jagged insides of him, even without sight. This, the Julia Roberts of it all, acting like death is such a gift, a pretty package for the living. A discussion of needles, symmetry of poisons. Out of my mind, pulling him out of his clothes, ankles adorned with belt-buckled jewel. Jeans stained with cum and dyed delphinium. Draped sitter perfect. Sick. Dead good looking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was excellent. Okay, our next poet is Bianca Phipps. Bianca is a queer Latina writer currently living in Chicago. By not rewriting Bible stories and other myths to suit their gay agenda, they can be found reading tarot cards, playing tabletop RPGs, and spending quality time with their cat. Their first chapbook, Crown Noble, was released with Button Poetry in August 2020. Please join me in welcoming Bianca.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
You're great, you're great.
Wonderful. I also struggled with picking what I was going to read tonight. It was a little bit of a challenge, but I have a little mix of poems from the chapbook that I submitted, Sinsal, and one new one that I'll read for you tonight. So I'll start with the first one. This is called Isaac. It is about the Bible story of Isaac and Abraham. If you don't know it, Abraham is Isaac's father, and he was commanded by God to take him up to the mountain and kill him. And then at the last second, God was like, you passed, don't kill your son. So this is a poem about that. No one asked, but I was armed with a long knife and a command. Endure. My father pointed out birds by their feathered patterns and thought himself a teacher. I didn't see a single bird, only his hand, steady, unyielding. He would cry when he killed me, but it wouldn't stop him. He would point out his frizzled remorse, his lace dedication to God, sing me to sleep while I bled out on the stone, heir of all but my own future. When we returned home, he begged my forgiveness. We were both armed still. A bird cried for absolution, and he agreed. He sheathed his knife, and still I bear the wound. So that was the first one. These are always so fun. Thank you all so much for being here. This is such a pleasure and a joy and a jazz, and it's been really nice getting to hear everyone's poetry. It's nice to be, yeah, just around writing again. It's been really, really lovely. This next poem is further down in the Google Doc. It is called M or F, and this is a poem about gender. Kaleidoscopic honeycomb, 1,000,000 colors, sublime swarm of untouchable frequencies, 7 small stones, bird's nest, fossilized, elegant spring, feral winter, the defiant declaration of overalls, lily pad poised for portrait, algae's greedy green, the postman, a city bus, the inevitable delay in your best laid plans, sleeping in, necks crook, Biblical outcast, exile's darling, the flaming sword to guide the way. A plum three-piece suit and the mannequin modeling. Front porch swing, backdoor smoke, the first cone of summer. Geese in all their fury. Slipping out of bed, putting on his armor, doing what he will not. Weakness, yes. The turn, yes. The apple too, from which chaos sprung. Yellow striped t-shirt, baseball cap, crisp wrapping paper, the devil and his wife, certain chords, not David's, a clatter of bicycles, next door neighbor, finally a night alone. A comforting mantra, a hideous hex. A sample on Sundays speared on a toothpick, toothpicks, salt and pepper shakers in the shape of two chickens, yodeling, the ephemeral drizzle of pink at sunset, the nervous blue of daybreak, Saturn's secret ring, two toads harmonizing or a mouse who sells hats. The keys kiss in the lock, happy to be home, the home happy to be, the end of a pew, lush carpet, wildflowers in all their wasps, close-up magic, a middle school talent show, prom gone awry, missing the dance, missing the boy, missing your song while crying in the bathroom, rodeo dreams, angel share, late night laughter that trickles off into silence the way God intended, where the river meets the sea, where the sea meets the sky, where the ships wreck, whatever it takes, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. Thank you. My cat has joined us now, so she may pop in and out of frame at any moment. A little bonus. Lady Catelyn, she will not be reading. She's very shy, but she is here to support. This is the last poem that was in this chapbook that I submitted. It is the titular poem, Sinsal. Godhood salts the mine. It cracked mine against the kitchen sink and fried it. Salt, pepper, paprika, over easy, over rice. I dreamt somewhere a mother who liked to eat. A meal, nothing short of a miracle. My mother hated all miracles, me included. I learned to dress her comfort with a salted rim. The fourth time my father tried his hand at parenting, he called to tell me my brothers only ate food if he oversalted it. It's all those freezer meals, he said. They don't appreciate my cooking. But they didn't know how. No one taught us to eat. I once aimed to be salt. I was told to burrow in soil and ruin spring, kill harvests. It was marketed as righteous, and who doesn't want a glimmer? God's holy light. I know it's a scam now, but I could sleep then. Whenever I was scared, I put it in someone else. I am still afraid, but I carry it now. Naming a fear makes it harder to kill and easier to release. My first name was Surprise. Do I name my fears or flavor them? Feed the flu, starve the cold? Either way is incorrect. When you're sick, you eat. I eat when I'm sick now. I am sorry I tried to be salt, but I do love it. I eat pickles over the sink and olives behind the bar, and I love to kiss the woman I love when she says something fearfully and wonderfully made, because I like to savor things, and I like to do what I like. A man pretending to be my father said savoring is a sin. Sinsal, I say. My purpose is enjoyment. I am eternal paradise until they cut the lights. That's that one. I'm just looking at these comments now. I would love to get her to read. I have been trying so hard, and the day that she does, I will call you guys. I'm gonna read one more poem now. This is a new poem. It's a love poem. It's called And So I Work Behind Your Back, which is a line from Peanut Butter by Eileen Miles, which is a great poem if you haven't read it, and I highly recommend. So this is that poem. The dissolution of an eternal kingdom is mostly stitch ripping, taking the hem of the dead tongue down, making the old gowns into curtains. I have many witnesses and no workers, many subjects and suitors and rubber-necked waiting women who hope for hat pins and giggle as they undress me about men I will never know. I like being surrounded by laughter. The scent of sunlight replaces the stench of soured sawdust and secrets gone pink with mold. It isn't mold, really, but a bacteria. I save knowledge as a crow hoards baubles and drop them, gift-like, in your lap. This invisible courtship. I let the ladies roll my hair over their fingers and cluck at the waist, crown bearing. But I make a poor criminal, and I hate doing what I'm not good at. This I am. Unraveling salt from the soil, corpse dancing, ignoring the old king as he chatters in his deathbed. The circus is in town. I leave my never-ending kingdom as a grave robber. The daisies smother my tracks as moss smothers my history, and I am made into what I was meant for. Wishing star, among a night sky of admirers. Pilot light of the well-worn stove. I am meant for bellies and enchantment alike. The circus has both by the mouthful. I pretend I don't trail decadent waste through every garden and rot each row with my curses. I laugh as the women laughed, sustained on hope alone. Grasping is what killed my father. I keep my hands to myself. Here, I am not distracted. Here, I am the tooth and the paw and the whip and its whistle, the sugar and lighting, the crinkling glee. I am as we should have been among the people. No, too grandiose, too platitude. I want to be near you. I'd like to plant eggs and grow gold for you. I'd like to cash in on my fortune, bounty and bread, dinner by 100 candles, each lit with a match a new man left on your windowsill. I am, despite my best efforts, from where I'm from. I like to be the best at things. I was made for this, living off the fierce brevity of joy that comes with the baptismal first bite of summertime peach, one of the world's many miracles. I brought flowers. I bought gravity. Tonight it will do as I say, and you will fly unencumbered by obligation. Thank you all so much for having me. This has been so fun. I'm really excited. Thank you all for being here. I can't wait to hear the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. That was wonderful. We're actually to our final poet. So, Monica Teresa Ortiz is a poet born, raised, and based in Texas. Their most recent chapbook, Have You Ever Dreamed of Flamingos?, was published by the Garden Party Collective. Oh, hey. Other publications include Muted Blood, Autobiography of a Semi-Romantic Anarchist, The Brooklyn Rail, Scalawag, and Fence. Please join me in welcoming Monica.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
You're great.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris, Laura, Bob, and the Garden Party Collective for making these beautiful chapbooks and bringing us to the collective. It's been a great experience. Hi, little baby. I see you. Yeah, so I appreciate y'all putting this together. Thank you to all the readers. It was really good to hear everyone's work and share space. So yeah, I'll read a few poems, some from the chapbook and most from my forthcoming book that hopefully will be out next year. Inshallah. but I will read the poem where the title of the book came from. Have you ever dreamed of flamingos? Which is actually a golden shovel, from a book called God is a, well, it's like a little chapbook called God is a Bitch Too by Maria Paz Guerrero. And the line is, because God wasn't educated in the empire. Have you ever dreamed of flamingos? A flamingo sunbathes in Port Lavaca because they escaped from a Wichita zoo in 2005, flying like gods, whose wings hadn't been clipped yet. The bird wasn't ever caught again. And since flamingos aren't native to Texas, an educated guess is that this flamingo spotted in the Gulf of Mexico is number 492. But the tag on the leg is unreadable. So all we know is that number 492 fled the Flamingo Empire and possibly traveled 600 miles to Corpus Christi to find God in the salty shallows. Some mistake a spoonbill for a flamingo, but no, there is only one pink and white bitch on the beaches of South Texas and in my dreams too. So that is the title poem. Let's see. And then I'll just be reading from the longer book. This one is called Imperial Texas. I wonder if Dante found the inner circle of industrial hell, a landscape resembling Odessa, a town made of oil and paper and even football, orphan drilling sites as bombs, hardly gardens dug by wildcatters, brackish oil blooms attract sulfur, salt, wetlands, corroded tubes of water require plugging requires money. Meanwhile, brine leaks into my poems. Despite that, I adjust my grief for the unknown celestials watching us measure the length of our footprints. Let's see. Oh, I'll read another one that's in the book. This one is called Supper. Night sky just before Ozona. The red car almost out of gas. Coughing on I-10 at 2 a.m. Lungs of the desert awaken. Somewhere out there are aliens, perhaps seated at a table eating catfish or navigating constellations in their technologically advanced vessel. I stand below the lone blue light, emptying the pump until it's exhausted. Liquid spits out. I hope the aliens read my poem and wonder if I am alive. Let's see. I have like 80 pages, so I have to like scroll down. Sorry, I should have bookmarked these better. Okay, I'll read just oops. I know it's getting late, so I will just read two more as soon as I find them. They're here at the bottom. Oh, here they go. These poems are longer than I'm used to writing, so they go on for a couple of pages. I have another Dante poem. I was really interested in Dante's Inferno, but I'm really interested in like just conceptions of the underworld and like our relationship to these places. So this one's called Dante Meets Zombies. I wonder if Dante encountered zombies on his descent. Japanese researchers tell us there are microplastics, even in clouds. I couldn't explain to you the logic of barbarians. The theory of empire is not easily understood. drones, atomic bombs, borders with concertina wire, flooding subways in late September. My lover and I climbed Kanishkakmu in Izamal. The Spanish Empire manufactured a colony around the pyramid, atop a cenote as well. They used stones torn from Kanishkakmu to erect their church. The floor of the cathedral slants because of the underground pressure, and I pray that the church crumbles into the earth one day. The internet asks us, how often do we think of the Roman Empire? And I only think about how it collapsed. Tonight, let's learn a thing or two about how empires dematerialize. For one, they're greedy, demanding we serve coffee during a virus that drifts across continents and kills millions of people and alters our possibilities. And in the meantime, Donna Haraway says we should make kin in the age of the Cthulhucene, as if Cthulhu wasn't a malevolent cosmic octopus alien, maybe a dragon, guardian of an underworld. Either way, we aren't living in Arcadia. So I wonder if space is tender. I need a shelter for the end of this world and a spear for the next one. The robots are already here, don't you know? Let's see, where is this last one? Okay, this will be my last poem. I appreciate y'all being here and sticking to the end. This one is called Because This Is Supposed to Be a Poem. There could be clones marching next to us. I don't own permanence, so please accept calcium carbonate as payment. The fake version of me carries copper pennies in my palms as if that is enough to pay the ferryman. I hope I would recognize if there are doppelgangers of beloveds, meaty replicas of ourselves, mercurial objects, fleeting lullaby. Show me again how we kiss, just to be sure you aren't a copy of a copy. Let's be explicit about the abundance of snake plants poking out windows on empty streets. We walk in the town. I have a mouthful of sand spilling out time into the salty gulf. Beach dingies house lovers hiding from the sun. 66 million years old, blue space, feathers, now simulacrum of scales. We watch a brown pelican hunt fish, spiraling into the throat to pluck a meal from God. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Okay, everybody, we did it. We made it to the end of the reading. For you East Coasters, true props on hanging out late with us for some wonderful poetry. Thank you so much to all the finalists. You were all fantastic. I loved being able to hear you in person, so to speak, sharing your work. So again, thank you so much. And everyone who stuck around, many thanks. So sending love, and I'll get this uploaded sometime soon, and we'll share it for our friends and family. Everyone stay safe. Take care. Thank you.